Did y'all hear any of that? Me call the meeting to order or any of that?
No. Oh, did others hear it? That may have been just been my computer.
Well, anyway, I call the meeting to order. Let me see. The minutes are not in the agenda. Is Ms. Cunningham Brown on the line? No. Is she the one who would have those? Dr.
Hey, good morning. She just asked Todd to promote her to panelist.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Good morning, Melanie.
And while we're waiting for that, we're getting our roof replaced today. So I've moved to the part of the house that sounded the quietest and put on headphones. But if it's too noisy, I have some other ideas about where I can go. So just let me know.
Okay, sounds good. So far, I don't hear anything. This is good for me because we're getting a new roof in 2 weeks. So very
the dog is really freaking out, but she'll get used to it.
Our dogs are the ones I'm worried about in our house too. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with these neurotic messes during roofing, but we'll figure it out. Miss Cunningham Brown, are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Okay, so I'm having some technical difficulties. It looks like I can speak, but my video is not coming on. So with regards to the minutes, you're right, they're not there for this time. They'll be there at the next meeting. I was made aware that the recording from the last meeting didn't happen. And so, some technical difficulty occurred, and so there was no recording of our meeting from last time. So I will have the meeting minutes at the next, we'll have two.
Okay, that sounds good. Then we will move into our first policy for discussion, which is policy 2610.
Okay, and I'll continue to try to work on my video, but I want to bring to you, and again, good morning, Chair Mackenzie, Vice Chair Stevens, if you're there, I'm not sure, Dr. Felder and attendees. The first policy for review today is the board attorney policy. This was a policy that we started some discussion on in April and wanted to come back. The recommended changes to this policy is as follows. If you look at the third paragraph, the statement or sentence that reads, questions raised by members of the board and the attorney's reply will be reported to all board members. We're suggesting that we strike that sentence. If you look at the fourth paragraph, we're also requesting that we delete the sentence that reads, the inquiry and response will be reported to all board members. We would like to strike that sentence, and we would like to add the following sentence. The board attorney will share substantive answers to board members' legal questions with all board members, unless the attorney determines that confidentiality is required to protect the board's legal interests or the information is relevant only to the requestor. So that would be the recommended changes to board policy 2610.
And board members, I drafted this, and I'm, definitely open to changing it. My reasoning was previously it basically said that the attorney will copy all board members on all answers. And I think that board members all need to hear any legal advice that I give. But, to copy the whole board on all answers might become a little excessive. And the kind of situations that I was thinking about are two. One is sometimes, occasionally a board member will call with a question about a conflict of interest, like my husband's taking this job and whatever. And I have not previously then emailed the whole board to let them know that I talked that through with the board member. But so that's when it says information that's relevant only to one person. That's what I was imagining. And then confidentiality is required to protect the board's legal interests. That's more if there's some reason why I mean, you can imagine a number of times when we might need to keep information, at least for the time being, confidential.
I wonder if there's a way to, I mean, I know that if board members request information about some question that got asked, you would share it with them. But I wonder if we should write that into the policy for clarity.
Oh, sure. You mean like that, like if someone asked me about the conflict of interest question, that I would explain what happened?
Yeah, or they just ask, I mean, I don't know how they would know that you were consulted about something, but if they catch wind that you gave advice about something, they could request to hear what it was.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I'm just thinking about how to say that. Well, I don't know. I haven't come up with a good phrasing. I mean, we could take out the second clause that, information is relevant only to the requester, and just err on the side of copying everyone. Or
Sarah, do you have thoughts about this?
Well, I'm just curious if this policy is one of the School Board Association policies, and
it is.
And so what their language is. Like, is ours different than theirs in these sections?
My assumption is that the whole policy was the School Board Association, and so the blue changes are made by me.
Yep.
Let me pull up your old board attorney.
Yes, that's
policy.
true.
Okay. Let me see what your policy says now. So right now, it doesn't really have that language one way or the other. Let me look. The chair will, it says in instances where an individual member, yeah, that's the same. Yeah, questions raised by members of the board and the board attorney's replies will be reported to all board members is in your policy now. And then
That's
it goes,
the school board's policy.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Is that in the, I'm sorry, in the, what am I trying to say here? In
The model school board policy.
Yes,
Yes.
sorry. Thank you.
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay. I don't really have a problem with this, but I just don't, sitting as the chair with access to you all the time, I'm like, I'd be interested in what other board members have to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not something that, like, if you guys would rather default to the school board's model, that's fine. It's not gonna, hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of imagine us doing either. I think my thinking right now is maybe we should default to the school board's version. If there's, yeah, but I mean, maybe this is one where it's, we bring this to the board for like discussion of the whole board. We could do that. I mean,
Do you think, maybe we should just end the last sentence with, unless the attorney determines that confidentiality is required to protect the board's legal interests.
Mhm.
and
I would
take
be
out the
good
rest.
with that.
Yep, yep.
Okay. That I can see that. And that to me, that's really, you know, like there could be a case where someone reports, you know, an assault that they accuse a board member, and I don't want to email the whole board about that, you know, or
Right,
something like that.
right.
Yeah,
Yep,
yep,
that makes
that
sense.
sounds good. Perfect.
Okay.
All right, I'm
All
making
right.
it there, Teresa.
Okay, thank you.
I also wonder if we should make that suggestion to the School Boards Association. I know sometimes they update their policies based on some of the changes
Yeah.
we're making.
That's a good point. All right, so I'll take out that everything after legal interests before it goes to the full board.
Thank you, Eva.
Thank you for that conversation and feedback, and we'll make those changes. The next policy for review this morning is policy 4400, attendance. This is also a policy that we had some discussion on in April, and so Jason Johnson will be walking us through changes regarding this policy.
Good morning and happy Friday to everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. So at the last policy meeting, we discussed removing the sentence consequences may not exceed a short-term suspension of 2 days. It has been removed from section B as well as section F. Our next step is I'm working with Ms. Cobb to ensure that this policy aligns with what we have in the Code of Conduct.
I do still see in one spot, and I apologize, I wasn't here last month. I think I was recovering from my vaccine. But I do see in section F, the very last redlined addition, consequences may not exceed a short-term suspension of 2 days.
Yes, Ms. Smiley, and you're correct. Eva caught that for me yesterday, so she helped me out.
Okay, so
That's just a typo.
okay, so that line's being taken out. So that there too, there's not a consequence of.
Exactly. It's in the clean version, it's completely out.
Okay, sorry. Could somebody explain to me the two versions for the policies? That one says strike out without footnotes, and the clean. Like when we're looking through each of these policies, which one should I be opening and looking at?
Well, you can open the red notes ones will reflect where the changes are, and then the other one is the clean version that assumes we accept all the changes.
Okay. All right. So I see what you're saying. So okay. So the clean version does not have that line, but that's like the only difference then from the recommended versus the clean.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
I think that's good. You feel good about it, Sarah? You do.
Yeah.
Was that a thumbs up? Okay.
Yes, that was a thumbs up. Yeah. No, that was the only line when I was looking through that.
I wasn't sure if it was a thumbs up or you went like. You're kind of dark.
Sorry, I'm
so I
like
just couldn't-
backlit. I'm gonna see if I move over, maybe it'll be a little bit easier to see me. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Cool.
The next series of policies are. Would you like me to move forward?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, so the next series of policies are policies with minor technical corrections. These are the ones with legal references, grammar errors, and minor changes. And so you have a series of policies listed there for information only. And on each one of those policies, you'll see the red note version that outlines what the change is, and then you'll see the clean version of each of those policies. Following the policies, if there's any
Ms. Cunningham,
discussion.
oh,
Yes.
sorry. Can I just, there was one, and I didn't write down which one it was. It might be online instruction, so let me open it. No, it wasn't. There was one policy I noticed somewhere that added a link to like a live binder, something like that from DPI. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
No, but I can certainly try to find that one. Was
Should have
there some
written down which one
feedback
it was.
specific to that one?
Well, maybe it's parental
It might
involvement.
have been.
You know, my only question about linking to the live binder was, my sense is that's the kind of thing that DPI changes, you know, as different administrators come in and things, and they're like, this is no longer the site, it's over here. And so from a like keeping something updated perspective, I wasn't sure whether we should do that or not. Just wanted to hear others' thoughts about that.
I mean, that makes sense to me, but I don't know how often it changes, so I would certainly defer to Eva, Ms. Cunningham Brown.
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm going to click through these and see if I can figure out which policy it was.
Those things certainly do disappear and or not stay updated. Although
And I can certainly remove that link if that's the pleasure of the board or the committee.
Student wellness. No. Really wish I'd written down which one it was. I mean, because it's the kind of thing that does get updated quite a bit. I don't know if it. I think maybe I would recommend
Okay.
taking it out. Yeah. What do you think,
we'll
Hillary?
certainly do that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay, we'll certainly do that. And our next policy, if we're finished with the technical correction list of policies, the next policy is policy 7720, employee political activities. This was a policy that we talked about in the last board meeting, and there was some discussion around bringing this policy back to take a look at some of the wording.
That's right.
Yeah. And I can speak
When
more
we
to.
Yeah, when we originally looked at this policy, there were a couple required changes. There was some language in the first paragraph that was a required change, and then there was a sentence in the last paragraph that reminded employees of standards regarding political speech in the classroom. So those were the changes that we talked about at our last meeting. And then from feedback from the entire board, we wanted to come back and have some further discussion about some of the work.
Yep. And I'm sorry that I wasn't at the last policy meeting to talk about it there. I mean, that last sentence was the one that I had flagged some concern around and thought we should look at the language. You know, the concern I have is that the idea of what is a personal political view is really could be open to interpretation, I think, quite a bit. And so, you know, I don't know what the best solution to that is, but, you know, I could imagine community members interpreting that all different kinds of ways about what is and isn't political. And so so the thought I had during the meeting was, you know, defining that more clearly as like electoral politics, you know. The other thing, I mean, I think we could take this sentence out. I think the questions around, you know, what is it appropriate for a teacher for students to know what a teacher's political points of view are, if they're not trying to persuade that is a big question. There's just a lot of big questions kind of wrapped up in this sentence. And so I don't know what the best way to resolve that is, but yeah, Eva.
yeah, I have some thoughts about it. I think, I mean, this concept comes from the case that they have below, the Boring v. Buncombe County. The teacher's name was Boring, but the idea is that when you are teaching,
But
you don't really have free speech.
Oh, Hillary, I think you were.
Oh, she froze for a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
You're back.
mute, sorry.
You know that when you're teaching, you're delivering content approved by the school system, and you don't have it's not an area where you have a First Amendment right to, you know, put your own opinion in. But I do understand what you're saying, Ms. Smiley, that these days, things that we would not have considered political, some people now find political. So, I mean, one way to work around that would be maybe just to say employees must be mindful of their responsibility to deliver the curriculum of the school system. In the instructional setting, period. Which is just to say, when you're teaching what we have set forth for you, and it's not an area of, yeah, it's not a pulpit.
Yeah. I guess I'm not sure that that sentence by itself here then makes that much sense. So maybe this whole sentence doesn't make sense here, or is not necessary. I mean, I think as a district, and especially knowing we have this new social studies position coming on board, like maybe that's an opportunity to, like, there's something about better helping teachers navigate this in this day and age, and how teachers of government teach there's all kinds of things related to this. But my concern about like leaving the sentence sort of as is with the like political views could be all kinds of things, is that it would like have a chilling effect kind of thing, like prevent teachers from discussing things that could be controversial to anyone or something along those lines,
I mean, to that point, I don't know how you would teach about current events without saying something that's going to trigger somebody on one side or the other.
Well, look at the previous sentence, though. This policy should not be construed as prohibiting the impartial study and discussion of controversial issues. But I think somehow the second sentence is meant to say, however, you're there to teach, not to persuade.
Which I think is important. One possible idea I had just around this is maybe we take a little bit more time to figure out the right approach to this sentence. I mean, we haven't had this sentence in this policy the whole time, so, but adding something makes sense. There's, I was trying to read up a little bit more on this issue, and there's a professor at UNCG's School of Education who really specializes in not necessarily the policy side, but he has written a number of books like Teaching Politics in Secondary Education, Engaging with Contentious Issues, and Teaching Social Studies in an Era of Divisiveness, The Challenge of Discussing Social Issues in a Nonpartisan Way. And, he's like a local-ish education expert who has done a lot of research around this kind of thing. And so maybe, I don't know, like he's one example of like, maybe we could reach out to some folks and see if they have thoughts about how a school board policy can best weigh that and get some additional perspective.
So you're right. Our current policy ends at classroom setting. And that last sentence is new.
So we could leave it as is, as we like figure out a little bit more how to say this in a way that that works,
So Sarah, do you think that you could reach out to that person and sort of?
I could, yeah, I'm happy to.
On? Or how?
I mean, if that's,
or is that something staff would typically? I mean, I just want to have a plan if we're going to table it to how we're going to come back around to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do that, to initiate that outreach for sure. And I see Ms. Stevens is, thumbs up. Yeah. Okay.
So in the meantime, should we, because I do like the rest of the updates that are at the top. In the meantime, should we take it forward without the last sentence?
I think so. I mean, the updates at the top are school board association updates, right?
This is all
And
school
then,
board association updates, yeah.
and then the idea at the end was like our idea for how to be clear about this thing I think is important, but we should be really careful with the language.
Yeah, I mean, the last sentence was also added by the school board association in our latest version, but
Mhm.
that doesn't mean you have to keep it.
Yeah. I just think if we ask the question, like, what's a personal political view? It's like very in the eye of the beholder what that means. And so as a teacher, I'd be like, it would maybe discourage me
So let's do
from
that. Let's
talking about anything that could be viewed as anybody. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think that we have a June, I mean, normally committees don't meet in June, but I do think that we have a June policy committee scheduled, June 25th. Assuming we're still planning to meet, then do you think that you could work on this between now and then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And we will bring forward this policy, assuming Brenda and Carrie are good with this, we'll bring forward this policy just without that sentence for now.
Okay.
Is that good with everyone?
Yes, it sounds good.
All right. So what I'll do is I'll reach out to that professor and see if he has any examples, and I'll look around at some other districts and stuff like that too. And then maybe I will, Eva, if I need to, is it okay to reach out to you for like the legal perspective and Dr. Felder and Ms. Cunningham Brown, would that be you on the staff side in terms of, yes, it probably would be, yes. Okay, all right. In the meantime, before that next meeting. Okay, great, thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Great conversation. The next group is our backlog policies, and Melanie Stowe will walk us through the backlog policies.
Good morning. I did share everything is on the agenda uploaded, but I also shared via email right before 9 a.m. With folks on this call a link to the working document that might just make it easier because it's all in one spot. So I'm going to work through that, but the links are on the agenda as well. And I also the links to the North Carolina School Board Association's policies, I've just made those, uploaded those documents and shared them with anyone on the internet so that we're not having to log into their site and have a password to view. So I hope this will be a little easier. So
Thanks for doing all that, Melanie. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're on, if you're in the working document, we're on line 47. And the first policy is 1310. This is parental involvement. I do have the track changes noted, and I do recommend, there's a couple of things with this one. One, I do recommend that we update and use the School Board Association's policy, and the track changes are noted. Most things are minor, but you will note if you scroll through the updated policy that the School Board Association actually has two policies specific to Title I that we do not have. And so we had folded that into our policy 1310, and I'm recommending that we update this to match the school board. And next month, if you do meet in June, that we add two policies that we don't currently have. And I've searched, I don't see them, if we numbered them differently. And those two policies are Title I Program Comparability of Services and Title I Parent and Family Engagement. And therefore, the information that it appears we're deleting in this policy would actually come back in these two additions.
Could we add them to the agenda at the same time so that anybody digging into it would see that the delete, what we delete here is showing up in a fresh policy?
Yes. Yes. So I could do that on the consent agenda for the June 7th meeting. I could note that.
I have a question. 1310 is also under the technical corrections that Ms. Cunningham Brown presented. I'm just looking to see. That may be that they sent a recent update.
Yeah, and I don't know if the technical would show where we would be deleting all that Title I piece, because the technical corrections are assuming that we have their current policy.
Right.
Yeah.
Where is in our current policy, where's the Title I section?
So that's where I don't see that we have these two policies that are specific to Title I, being 3565 and 1320.
And the technical correction just changed, just updated a legal reference.
Is the update, Melanie, to 1310 that you have, it may be that I just can't see it on Assembly. Have a
Yeah,
little
but do you
button.
have the document that Melanie emailed us? I can forward it to you,
I
and it
do
has
have
like,
I have the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because if you click on the link in the spreadsheet,
Oh, I see. She's got it in the Google Drive. Okay.
yeah.
So are you saying the Assembly doesn't show the track changes? That's what I uploaded.
I think it's just a problem of like Assembly's only showing me the top 6 things, and then it says there's a little button to click for more, but it's just the button's not working. So maybe if I log in. But yeah, I can look at what you have in the Google Drive. Excuse me. So could we take it out of the technical corrections
Yeah.
and make sure that the one that Teresa has is added to yours?
Okay.
I think that would be a good idea.
Okay.
Okay.
So Ms. McKenzie, other board members, any concerns about this update to 1310?
Just a clarification question. So this updated the redlined version, all the red lines are just what we're looking at is changes to our current policy based on the School Boards Association policy. Is that right?
That's right for this one. There are a couple cases where it's the flip, and I propose we keep our version and we don't adopt the state version.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just continuing to look through the red lines.
Yeah, a lot of the red lines are just minor comma here, capitalization there, but there's the significant update is to the Title I piece where all that was pulled, but it's because they should be 2 standalone policies.
I am good with it. Brenda, are you looking at it? Do you feel good about that?
Yeah, you see my head going back and forth, working with 3 computers. I know we all are doing the same thing.
Sarah, you okay with this plan?
I mean, I think that makes sense. My only question is there's a lot of like cross references to other policies, like a lot of them. And here that makes a lot of sense to me because those policies have so much to say about the things in this policy. But I think that in the past, we've tried to minimize those cross references. So just wanted to say that out loud. I don't think it's avoidable in this case, but we are putting in like a lot of cross references.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And in a past life, previous district, I did do all the cross references. And we did it after we went through this process and so what I'm noting is any policy, when we finish, I will know every policy and you will know every policy that we don't have the state's current version. And that way we know which ones we need to update on the cross references. It's almost impossible to get that updated now until we go through this, if that makes sense.
It does, right? Because you're adding some new policies and then, okay.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a plan. Shall we move along to the next one?
So yes, if that's okay, the next one, this is just an FYI. I found this very interesting. Certainly for the language barrier, I was excited. We have a policy that's in Spanish. So I had a conversation with the State School Board Association, and they do have, this was something we did to go above and beyond. And I'd like to get your feedback or just put on your radar that this is something we could do with our family engagement team and go through our policies and determine if there are policies where we want to ensure they're translated. And this is a two-step because it means they're translated language-wise, but then we would need it to have a bilingual attorney make sure, because this isn't just common speak that we're translating. And so the state, though, I just want to make note, all of our policies, because we have the state's platform now, there's a Google Translate feature in the top right corner. So all policies can be changed to multiple languages. It's just, as is with Google Translate, it's not 100% correct when it comes to some of the legal terms. It's not picking up all of that. So I do want to keep this. I just wanted to let you know that they're all available in Spanish. I'm not sure our families know that because I didn't know that. And that's part of this new online policy manual feature that we now have access to. So the question for you would just be if there are other policies where you would actually want us to invest the time to have them translated to ensure their accuracy. If there are any policies that families really would need 100% accuracy, and that would just be a minor cost investment to have someone from a legal lens that's bilingual look at it. Eva, are you bilingual?
No, we don't have, I don't think we have anyone in our group.
Well, it'd be great if we could, yeah, figure out a way on the website to make it clearer how to do that translation in the first place. Having a hard time thinking of like how we would even know, you know, all of the policies are important to different people at different moments. And so identifying those, these ones, especially around family involvement. Dress code, code of conduct, do we translate those documents?
I've seen
do.
the Spanish
Everything.
version of the, yeah.
The handbook. Mhm. Okay. That's the other main thing that was on my mind.
And we will add to our interpreted meetings, we will add a screen and directions, and we will start adding this to all of our meetings that we're doing for our populations that speak other languages, so that they're aware of that feature. And we also do that for our website because some folks don't realize that either.
Great. All right.
All right, so we will update this policy in Spanish. And then that would also need to be reflected in, I believe, 3565 and 1320, the ones that we're adding.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, let's see. 2110, board member legal status. And then here, I have recommended that we make those updates, and I'm gonna pull it up. They seem to be minimal. And then there is an addition where they actually have the oath of office added. Under item C.
Why is 7 scratched out under membership in terms of office?
It shouldn't be. That's just the school board association leaves that blank because some boards have different numbers, but we should keep it 7.
And same with the time of the primary election and even numbered years. Yeah.
Yeah, your elections are held at the time of the primary? Question mark? Okay.
Yes.
And then in the oath of office section at the board meeting held in July following their election.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is nice to have the oath there just because, you know, every couple of years people start looking for a copy of it. Now I have it.
Well, and some people who are running need to know that because so it's important.
All righty.
All right, I'll make those updates.
Thank you.
The next one, 2114, resignation or removal from office. And noted that in the state policy is actually 2116, but I have that we would keep, that we would update. Let me pull this up, sorry, all the screens. The only update I have is that we would update to that number. I'm not sure if there's a reason we don't have it updated. But I would recommend we do.
It
And
looks
that-
like this red line version though takes out the resignation piece of it.
I was getting ready to ask that too.
Yes, and that's noted in another policy. Hold on, all these screens. That's noted in 2115, where if a board member doesn't fulfill their term. And I know that Ms. Stevens has always, or has been very helpful, that sometimes there are reasons we've done things that I don't understand or know about. But that is addressed in 2115, and I don't have a strong feeling either way. It should just be the same.
I mean, if it's in another policy, I'm fine with taking it out here. But would we change the removal from office?
Yeah,
So
but
we
it's
would
not.
take out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is it 2115 doesn't actually say if you want to resign, you should submit it in writing. One would think that was obvious, but it is nice to, because sometimes people will say things in the heat of the moment. So
Didn't mean it.
Actually, psych, I've lived that. Okay, so.
yeah, you say I resign and then there you are at the next meeting. So, so honestly, I kind of like it the way you had it, although, you know, it's not, if you'd prefer to keep the way the School Board Association has with just removal from office, that is also fine. But right now,
I'd like to keep it, and I don't really see a time in which this wouldn't be relevant. So it's not something I think we're gonna have to like watch closely to make sure we keep updated. So I kind of think keeping it might be good. Board?
Yeah, that makes sense to me too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we'll keep the resignation part, but all the other legal references are good.
And I guess we'll renumber it. So in that case, I mean, Melanie, it really becomes just a technical correction. We're just changing the numbers and the legal references, so you could add it to those without having to bring it to the board if you want.
Okay.
Because at this point, all we're changing is numbers.
Okay, so it wouldn't need to come on the consent agenda then? No.
If that's okay with the policy committee.
Yeah. Sounds
Although
good.
I guess I should check. Does it match our current policy? Or are these changes from our current policy, or is it from their old model?
Oh, I was assuming what we were looking at with the strike throughs was our policy with strike throughs. Is that a bad assumption when we're looking at these things?
That, in most cases, that is what it is.
Yeah,
It's-
it matches our current policy. I just checked.
Okay, perfect.
But what do you mean, most cases?
Oh, well, I've got two coming up where I recommend we keep our version and
Okay.
not adopt the state's. Some of them do make sense to me without the foundational knowledge.
There's always a story. And Brenda has it all written down in that bookshelf behind her. You said something in 2014, it's on that bookshelf, so.
Okay, so the next one's 2115, unexpired
Go ahead,
term
I'm sorry.
fulfillment. And so this is one where I've recommended we keep our version and not update. Because our version has pretty specific details regarding how we announce the vacancy, who's interested, what's needed if there's an unexpired term, and the state's has none of that. It just says filled by an election.
But ours, we need ours. We did it. I've lived through 2 times and we've needed it, so we'd like to keep it.
It's good to me.
Okay.
You good with
All right,
that,
so-
Sarah?
So just to note 2115, that's a strike through that shows we're keeping ours and not updating. Because
So
we
the
have
Sounds
blue
good.
language or the underlined language is language that we already have in policy that they don't have.
right.
Okay, got it.
So there is no update. I just want you to know the difference.
Great.
No, that's perfect, thank you.
Okay, 2120. Yeah, if you don't mind, I do want you to review these updates. There are some updates with the state policy, and this is specific to school board members' code of ethics.
I think for me, the linked document is, I think, a different document that your team was working on.
Yeah,
Oh, is it?
the survey in Spanish.
Oh,
I've done that.
I'm pretty sure it's not.
okay, hold on. Oh, golly. Hold on 1 second. Okay, hold on. Let me, it'll take me just 1 minute to link.
This is a good time to take like a 3-minute recess.
That'd be fine. And I just updated it, but we're good.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna refill my coffee, so I'll be right back.
Okay.
Melanie, while she's doing that, so the document that's on Assembly, the changes, the blue changes are what? Like the strike-throughs
For, okay, so for this
for 2120.
2120, those are the strike-throughs are the School Board Association's version. But I think there are reasons that maybe they have some of the specific language they put in. I just
Okay.
want to make sure what they added is all legally correct, you know, because it's
Yeah.
got some ramifications.
Okay, so like so number 11 in our current policy isn't in the school. Okay, I see.
Yes.
And there's nothing different about, oh, I see. The sorry, I'm just,
That's okay.
So is it updated in that form you sent us, Melanie?
It is. You might have to refresh, like do a refresh on the screen so it'll reflect it.
Didn't work for me. Is it in the working document you emailed us? Is that where you said you refreshed it?
I did. Let me.
It says updated policy 2120, but the link is.
It's still okay. Let me send it. Oh my gosh. There. I just put the actual link in. Wait. Hold on. Yeah, that's it.
Mine is still not working. Oh, there we go. Now it updated.
Okay. Okay.
So for 2120, I would maybe want to take out that first red board where it says the Orange County Board of Education Board.
Yes, I'll update that.
So to our attorney, while she's doing that, this is an open meeting. So anybody who's creeping in here under some anonymous weird name, it's just sort of senseless. But anyway, just saying.
I do have one staff member that may not be listed as a panelist that may show up as unidentified. And that's the person taking our notes for this morning.
They wouldn't show up as Fox.
Oh, no, no, no.
So that link, the working document link is that's an internal link we're using. So someone is accessing it, but they just haven't logged into their Google, or they've set their setting where you can't see who they are, so that you don't know that I'm in the document at 12 a.m.
oh, it might be me. Because
It's
I don't
Eva.
have an Orange County, I don't have an Orange County account.
Creeping, Eva.
Actually, it's not working well at all because I can't actually view the a lot of the documents but we'll deal with that.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, I'm.
I was over here checking the attendee list. I thought you guys were talking about the WebEx.
Me too.
Brenda's gonna put it in her cupboard. Y'all mark it. There was a fox reading that document at this meeting, and next year we're gonna be talking about it.
That's right.
Exactly.
10 years down the road.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
remember
tell
that
you.
time? Remember that time?
So if you have the 2120, there are specific numbers that you can see that Orange County added some specific statements where they're not what the state has. And my comment when we were on break just now is to Eva was just to make sure whatever we've added is something that we can follow through with, that there aren't any ramifications for what we've put in our code of ethics.
Number 6. It says, oh, now I see what's happening. Okay, it was on a different line. Got it.
And again, this is where, just as a reminder, where we're reminded by the School Board Association that if in fact something legal happens where something in their policy has to be updated, if we are not in direct alignment, then when Teresa comes to you with those updates, we might get missed. And so that's why we need to be real vigilant on noting all of the policies of which are specific to us, so that our attorney can keep us up to date if there's something happens and we need to update our policy.
So it looks like number 10 and 11 in your current policy are the main ones that aren't in the school board policy. And well, I'm confused. So I see, yes, 10 and 11 in your current policy. So I don't certainly have any objection with keeping those. I do think that they were intentionally added. So that's recognize the duty of the board to assist in formulating policy and the duty of the superintendent to carry it out. And then 11 is about selection of personnel.
I think both of those are probably pretty important.
Yeah, I agree. There is a line earlier in number 4 that's a bit different now. It sort of took out an idea. I like the language that they have around engaging in respectful dialogue, whatever. The seek systematic communications between the board and students, staff, and parents, I think is intended to encourage the board to do those things, well, in a systematic way, right? In a coordinated board way, which I liked in our previous policy. I like when we try to do that. So I'm in favor of keeping that phrase personally.
Yeah, I think that phrase is good. Sorry, I'm reading, so if someone wants to jump in here, of course, just jump on in. I'm just reading the policy.
And I'm reading as well.
There is a new number 5 that is in the school boards and not yours, which is respect the confidentiality of information that's privileged under applicable law and refrain from unauthorized disclosure of matters discussed in closed session. I like that. I just want to note that that's new.
Oh, yeah. Because Eva, when you say that, through the years, you know, we always talk about not disclosing what goes on in closed session. You know, you can't do anything to school board members who do, because it happens all of the time. And it's not like you can remove them from office or, I mean,
And number 19 was definitely added in very intentionally. And I think it's worth keeping probably.
which number?
Number 19. So are all the strike throughs just things that the model policy didn't have, Melanie? Is that okay?
It looks like the School Board Association, oh shoot, I just flipped over to the wrong screen. Number 14. We have this like immediate family member, larger list. And it looks like the School Boards Association only has board member spouse, but I'd be just inclined to keep our larger list.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else there, but.
I think so. I think we should
Yeah.
keep it.
I do too.
It's funny because I can read this and I know like when all of these things must have been added in. Oh boy.
So right now I have us keeping the OCS version, but adding the School Board Association's number 4 and number 5. I want to make sure that's right.
I think just number 5.
Okay.
4, I think we wanted to keep our language about systematic communication.
Okay.
I thought the new language there was good too, the like engaging in respectful dialogue. We used to have it somewhere else. Our version has it somewhere else, but we could put it there like they have. If there's a way to work in both of those phrases.
Yeah.
Sure. I think so.
Okay.
And you know, can I just say, I know that there's no consequences if we don't engage in respectful dialogue, because we've all lived through it. I mean, we have all of this in writing, but school board members, when they are, you know, they get I mean, when they just do what we do what we want to do. You know, we talk about what's in closed session. We're not respectful. We yell at people. You know, we come, you know, drinking. I mean, all those things. There are no consequences. So, and I guess that's something we have to work on with the larger group, because I believe at some point there should be some sort of consequence. So, because otherwise they just continue to break protocol. Well, I won't say protocol. It's not protocol. It's just break the rules. Eva, I see, and you know, Eva, you've worked with a lot of boards, and you know that. I mean, as soon as you leave the meeting, somebody's telling their friend, and you know that.
And it's true that the board can't remove a board member.
Right.
You know, public censure of a board member is, you know, the board can adopt a public statement of censure.
Right. We've done that before.
Yeah, and it is possible for a board member to be removed by the Attorney General for like criminal activity, but it is extremely rare.
It is, and it's very difficult because we've had a board, taken money and done all these things, but he remained on the board. It was in the newspapers. It was a big thing. He was an attorney. So, but anyway, we've done it all in Orange County.
Hopefully we're moving into a better future.
That's right.
Okay, so Melanie, do you have clarity about where we want to go with this?
I do.
Okay. Everybody good?
Everybody's good.
Okay.
All right. We have 2 more. Policy 5008, automated phone and text messaging. These are the same. So this is currently updated and reflects the School Board Association's policy. So there's no update. And then the last one, this is another one where the strike through is actually showing you our version. And I would recommend we keep our version because there are significant additions and changes here around very specific to us around how many booster organizations there can be, who's raising money, how we take in money. Ours is much lengthier than the state's. And so the strike through version is just showing you how much more comprehensive ours is. And I believe there are good reasons for that. So I would recommend we keep ours and just note that moving forward.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. And yeah, there are good reasons for that.
Yeah. All righty. Is that all of our backlogs for today?
That is.
Very good. Well, we will move right along to policy 1010, board authority and duties. Bonnie asked me to put this on the agenda, so here we are. She is hoping that we will, if you open it, you'll see her 2 requests. Just what y'all think.
Well, I'll kick it off here. I believe that all of that detail in number 2 sort of gets us in the weeds. You know, leaving it as is how a school board member should function. But when we start talking about staff retention and enrollment trends, we get those. I just believe we start to get a little in the weeds with that. But if you all want to put it there, that's fine. I certainly am okay with what's in number 8, the equitable and what she wanted to add equitable, and I'm certainly comfortable with that. But it just seems adding that last line in number 2 sort of school board members get in the weeds a little too much. And that looks like that is we're just heading in that direction. But if the 2 of you would like it, I will certainly go along with it in the spirit of Memorial Day weekend.
Well, I agree with you on the number 8. And then on number 2, I do think it's important for the board to regularly monitor like the most important. I mean, that's a thing the board does. But I don't know if we should be getting into specifics about staff enrollment or enrollment trend, that kind of stuff. The student growth and achievement part, maybe we could just say I would be in favor of just saying like, and regularly monitor critical outcomes, including student growth and achievement, or for example, student growth and achievement, like.
Right, because
I agree.
I just had a problem with staff retention and all that. I mean, I just had I don't want to say a problem. That's a strong word. I just had a concern with that whole staff retention piece because it just seemed like we were getting in the weeds. But I'm fine with that. Right. As long as we
could go endlessly into the weeds on any of that data. You could go school by school. I mean, you could go so deep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That it is not productive or our job. So yes.
I agree with you, Sarah.
So maybe it would say like regularly monitoring critical outcomes. Do we want to say including student growth and achievement, for example, or just leave it as regularly monitoring critical outcomes?
I like naming student achievement and growth because that is like the business we're in, right? It's like what students are learning. So I like naming it.
So how about
Okay.
such as student growth?
Such as.
Okay. I like that.
Right.
So Ms. Cunningham Brown, are you the one who would update that for the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And you have clarity on
Yes.
what we are? Perfect.
Regularly
Okay.
monitor critical outcomes such as student growth and achievement, period.
Yes. I think it might be regularly monitoring instead of just regularly monitor.
Yeah, monitoring, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, action.
Yeah,
And I think it might need an and ahead of it.
yeah.
noted.
Sorry, I really didn't edit this for grammar before I stuck it in this document and sent it to you. Just wanted to get it on the agenda.
Okay,
And then we're good with number 8 too. We're adding equitable and free public schools.
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Okey-doke.
Okay.
Then we're good with that one.
Thank you.
And we will move to policy, my favorite policy, 4316, student dress code.
Yes.
And I asked to include this on the agenda so that we could add some specific affirmation for natural hair and hairstyles. I want to note that this is verbiage pretty directly from the Crown Act. So I did not make this up, or as I should not have. The ones, even I did discuss adding some language just to make sure that this wasn't supposed to be, oh, maybe we already did. We didn't want to make it sound like these were the only natural hairstyles that could be affirmed, but Eva, do you have any suggestions to what we have here?
So my thought was just that at the end of the first sentence, we might say, or other hairstyles traditionally associated with culture, or, you know, I don't know. But then the second sentence doesn't really make sense. What I was telling Ms. McKenzie was that I just was trying to think of a way to make it clear that this is applicable to, you know, any sort of cultural minority, but and I looked around for some examples, and some places do have an additional provision, like in their Crown Acts, about headgear associated with Indigenous people, but you kind of already have that below, you know, you already addressed hats and head coverings. So the answer is I didn't come up with a great way to do it that makes sense, and maybe this is really the only type of culturally identified hairstyle that we need to address. I'm open to thoughts. I mean, it could just say, based on hair texture, comma, including but not limited to.
Let's do that.
Yeah, yeah, because, you know, yeah, it's not just people, yeah, but not limited to, because, you know, why people be hopping on that bandwagon too? You know? Because you remember, what was it, the woman back? Like,
Bo Derek.
Rachel
That's
Dolezal.
Bo Derek, you're right. You know, we could tell that was a long time ago. She came out with all those. I said, what did that white girl do with all those braids? So anyway, yeah.
Just say
So
we don't discriminate against these hairstyles unless you got them on spring break.
that's right. You were drunk out of your mind.
So
Yeah.
we're
Okay. So we will
Well,
have
good.
including but not limited to hair that is tightly coiled, etc.
Right.
Okay.
Everybody good with that?
Yes.
This is great.
All right.
If I may just ask a question, I notice it doesn't say anything about hair color, and I just wonder about that.
Good point.
Good point. I'm assuming all of us are okay with any hair color. Is that a
Oh,
safe
yeah.
assumption?
Absolutely, because
Yeah.
it's a thing now. All the kids are coloring their hair.
I mean, my kid went to school with pink hair last week, so I need clarity, Dr. Felder.
That's good, right? 'Cause, yeah. And I'm coloring my hair.
You're muted, Dr. Felder, so we can't hear you.
No, I was saying I saw purple and green at the school I visited yesterday. It's all good.
Yeah,
Grandson has orange, so
right, whatever.
there we go.
So where and how shall we include that?
You could just have texture or color.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Dr. Keeling, I see you pop on. Anything you want to add or tweak?
No, I just had a question around towards the bottom where it said head coverings. And I know that sometimes head wraps are worn not necessarily in a more traditional culture of Africa, but we do wear like what some people would think is a scarf. And I don't know if kids are being told they need to remove their scarves. I have seen that happen before. And so that was one question I had. And it may be covered. I just had that. And then my other question was in the spirit of making sure that we are a affirming environment for all, that it applies to staff as well. I don't know if a staff member comes in and their hair is colored, if comments are made, or if they have a wrap on their head, if they're told they're unprofessional. And it may be covered, but those were just two thoughts that came to my mind.
Well, this is the student dress code, so I don't know if that is staff I mean, do we have a
Right.
staff dress code or
I believe so.
regulation? Is that something the board even has our hands in?
Right.
Yes. 7340 employee dress and appearance. It's pretty broad though. It just says,
Oh, God, it is, because I have seen.
must
Yeah.
not disrupt or distract from the educational process. And then principals or department supervisors may develop dress or appearance requirements for each school or department.
Okay, at least, so we have one for staff, so let's just concentrate on the one we're on now.
The other point about like hair wraps and things like that, I think that's covered under the like where it says cultural expression. Down below about, is that Dr. Keeling what you had meant, that section?
Right. And so
Way down where it talks about head coverings.
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's like a traditional kind of head wrap. I'm thinking of so here's where we get into like the implicit biases of it, the difference between like a gele and what someone would call a bandana or a scarf. So that's where I was getting at.
Do you have a suggestion of how we could stick it into the policy and make sure that it's covered?
It may say gele and head wrap, or a head wrap or a hair wrap.
Maybe, yeah, e.g. galas, scarves or wraps.
Okay, yeah.
There are some school handbooks that prohibit
Honey?
bandanas specifically because of gang association. I don't know if that's still, if that's even something that comes up in Orange County. I mean,
See your arm on the camera.
in your
Brenda,
handbook.
will you mute, please?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. No worries.
But yeah, I think if you have galas or scarves or whatever you
Yep.
just said.
Gale scarves or wraps? Should we? And I know that we are not part of the athletic association. You know, I know we can't write policy for the athletic association, but I'm thinking back about the girl in Durham who just had to cut her hair because she had beads in it. Do you think we should explicitly say beads or feathers or things like that? Or do you think that this covers all of that?
I think that's covered in hairstyle, the part that you added.
Okay.
I mean, the issue of wearing them in games is going to still come up. And I do understand that the Athletic Association is reviewing that.
Okay, good. I'm glad that they are.
I spent some time trying to figure out where that rule comes from in anticipation of this discussion, like the rule that you can't have beads in your hair. I think I think it actually comes from a national association, but I also read that they are reviewing it.
Well, we don't really have any option to opt out of their policies, right? So that's not really something we can do except to advocate. So.
And Ms. McKenzie,
Yes.
the athletic directors are very clear. We will not be cutting anybody's hair at any time. We will forfeit the game. And we're also adding that to our Orange County Schools athletic handbook, so all coaches are aware.
Thank you very much.
This is a national issue. I mean, it happened in Durham, but it's happening in other places across the country as well.
I guess the wondering that I have is that it's falling under cultural expression, and which means, you know, just looking at something here that I don't know, like, why does it have to fall under a cultural expression? Why do I have to justify my head wrap in that way? So unless I can, like, if someone approaches me and questions my head wrap, can I just wear a head wrap because I want to wear a head wrap? I mean, do I have to make a case and show how it's related? It's a cultural expression. That's why I've got this on, because I'm of African descent. So I need, that gives me, does that cover me? I don't know, something about that part, and maybe I'm making too much of it.
I don't think you are. One of the reasons that we're sort of going through all this language is because we're trying to make exceptions to the general rule that head coverings are prohibited. And maybe we need to be just like, what is the problem with head coverings? Is it really just hats and hoods that we don't want people wearing in the classroom? Because I know teachers don't like it when kids have their hoods up and they can't see them. And as opposed to saying head coverings are generally prohibited, and then we create all these little exceptions.
That's an interesting question.
Well, I think it probably came from bandanas because of gang activity at some point. Is that the origin of that?
Maybe. And hats have just always been, I honestly can't say why, but hats have just always been a thing that principals really hate, I feel like.
I mean, I understand it like blocks your face a little bit in class, and maybe that's what it is, but you know, in the year of face masks, I don't know.
I mean, people could make the case, honestly, that a hat is a form of cultural expression as well. I can think of a professor right now who teaches at NYU who always wears a hat. And it's part of what he's trying to get across in his teaching towards being more culturally relevant. I think that's part of why he wears it. So it does make for good conversation.
Is this maybe a question for the principals? Like what's really important and what isn't? I don't know.
I think getting their input is a good, like hearing what they think about that and why they feel it's necessary. I feel like we've had that conversation with them like a few years ago. I don't know. It's worth asking maybe.
I think it's always good to circle back though, you know, with these things should be living documents. So I mean, I would hate to delay adding the Crown Act language, but I do want to make sure I'm trying to think about how we handle, wraps and scarves. I think it's fine to be there under cultural, because I think there are some cultural wraps and galas and things like that. But then also there's the broader question of head coverings and hats, and whether someone's going to feel like they need to justify it based on their culture. So what would the committee like to do? Should we move this forward and take this language to the board and then try to circle up with principals and get their feedback about hoods and hats and things like that? Or should we wait for all of it?
I'd like to wait for all of it. I'd rather not piecemeal, and I'd like getting the input from our principals.
Would the committee be okay with asking principals and sort of tweaking it before the next board meeting based on their feedback, just about that specific point?
Yep.
Before first reading? Okay.
Yeah.
Does that sound okay to you, Dr. Felder?
Yeah. Just looking to see when we meet with them again. We're not meeting with them before the 7th.
Well, can't we just send it to them?
Well, we need to have a discussion. So we could send it and they can, start noodling on it earlier. But yeah, that's going to take a discussion, because I suspect they're not all going to be on the same page, and they'll have different viewpoints. And, we need to hear it all out and all that other good stuff. I mean, I hear what you're saying, Mrs. Stevens, in terms of not wanting to piecemeal. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to delay. That's just my 2 cents. I wouldn't want to delay the upper part of this, about hair texture and all that, because that's
Right.
like
We're
in the moment and all of that. And so if we can get that in, let's do
and
that.
that's
And if
fine.
we can expand even the head wraps as was discussed, I say put all that in and let's move that forward. In the meantime, we'll take it to the principals around that one piece. And if there are any revisions, we will bring that back to the board.
That's fine. I was just thinking, I will say to whoever's listening here is that I've been contacted, probably because of I'm Black, by a reporter asking how I feel about the Crown Act. So,
well, this will answer him.
Yeah, and well, of course I had a, we need to feel comfortable in whatever space, So anyway, I it's good that we're moving forward with this. Okay.
Okay, so we'll bring this version to the board on the 7th. Dr. Felder will circle up with principals and sort of get their feedback on that, and maybe for the next policy committee we can just revisit, and because then it's going to be August before we vote on the rest of it anyway, because we don't do business in July. So I would want to make sure that these protections are, I would like to believe that it's not necessary, but I guess, clearly it is. So I would like to have this in policy for summer school also, with your blessing, Vice Chair Stevens.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Very good. Well,
Can I ask one other question, Ms. McKenzie? I'm sorry, can I ask one other question?
Of course.
And this is because I just don't know. We had graduation and it was like drive-throughs last year. I've also been asked about students being able to wear kente cloth, like as a sign of their honors, like they do at the college level, or Native American students being able to dress with feathers or whatever traditional garbs. And I don't know if that goes with this or if that goes to our principal conversation.
We've done that before.
Okay.
The pathways we had, the Jeffries
Ms. Jeffries.
Oh, you know her. Well, that child wore, and I'm sorry, I call him a child, but anyway, he wore a feather. And you know that, Teresa Cunningham Brown.
Yes, I do.
We allowed that. So we do that in Orange County schools. We allow that. We don't prohibit students from their expression. We have freedom of expression during graduation. I guess
Do we-
limited expression.
Do we have documents that or communications that go out to families and students about expectations for graduation? I mean, are they allowed to paint the top of their hats and stuff like that? Like, I'm probably the least traditional board member we've got, so like, I'm fine with whatever they want to do. But like, I'm just wondering, do we need to put in policy that we affirm cultural expressions during graduation? I mean, would that be a helpful thing to be in policy? I mean, partnership will have already graduated by the time we would vote on it, but I don't know.
Well, students that put stuff on top of their hats. I mean, I've seen it all, but I don't care what we say.
Dr. Felder, do you know if there's communication about it?
I don't know if there's any formal communication about it. I can certainly look into that. I don't know if anyone else, any other staff in this meeting would know. But as Mrs. Stevens just said, based on what I saw even last year, I saw a variety of things. And I just don't know if there's anything formally written, or communicated that says what you can and cannot do. So,
And Dr. Felder,
yes.
historically, yes, there is something that's communicated. The students would typically document. And in terms of, do I think this would be helpful for graduate? I think putting something like this in place will be very helpful for graduation moving forward, because different principals and different staffs have different philosophies about what you can and can't do at graduation. So it'd be nice if we have one set standard in place.
So you recommending in addition to this policy? In addition, is that what you're?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that something we would try to move forward in the next, week and, this couple
we're
of
gonna-
weeks here, or I imagine
we're
things
gonna
may have
miss-
already been communicated to families,
We're gonna miss partnership graduation regardless. So I think it's something we should come back to when we talk about head coverings. And I think it's good long-term. I mean, as long as the district and the board is all in the same place. I mean, maybe this isn't even, I guess dress code is board business. I don't know if typically graduation garb falls into the dress code, but I guess Dr. Felder is okay with us putting it into policy. It could provide some clarity anyway, if everyone's on the same page about it.
I do think we would want to think about how to
Yes.
say we don't, require rigid uniformity while also making it clear that, you can't write profanity on your hat and things like that.
Right. Right. So I think we should bring that, I think we should talk about that at the next policy meeting, probably. I think it would be good to have, but I don't want to rush it because I think that there's probably a lot to consider there. But I do think it, again, this is the weeds, and I recognize that, but I do think whatever you think should happen, Dr. Felder, it should be communicated clearly to families so that they know what to expect with it and what they're allowed to do. All right. Ms. Cunningham Brown, are you clear on dress code update for the next meeting?
Yes, that we would move forward with what was presented today. We would come back with conversations around hat, hood, and graduation garb. And then there was some insert of some language at the first stanza. And I have that.
Okay, next to Gale's, the
Yes,
wraps or, okay, perfect.
Yes, I have that language for scarves and wraps under the head covering section. And I also have under the first page around hair texture or color. And then including but not limited to, then the rest of that sentence.
Excellent. Everybody good with that? All right. Is there any other business we have this morning? Because we are at the end of our agenda. Oh, I have one question. I was wondering whether, Eva, you thought it would be a good idea to add natural hair and hairstyles to our discrimination policy.
So think about it, Eva.
Yeah, I'll think about it. My initial reaction is I don't think that your discrimination policy needs to get that specific.
Okay.
But I will take a look at it.
Okay. Anything else?
We are getting through a lot. We've gone through a lot of these back order policies, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah. And Hillary and Sarah, I just sent you some public comment information from the School Boards Association that came down from goals and directions. You'll find it interesting. So I'm sure it stems from probably what happened in Alamance, but please just look at it and I'll keep you all informed.
Thank you so
That sounds
much.
good.
All right.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I guess I will call this vote. Ms. Smiley?
Yes.
Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great
Thank you.
weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Enjoy the 3-day weekend.
You too.
Yeah,
Bye.
me too. Yeah.